started. Welcome, everybody. Start with introducing the presenters here. Benjamin Sears and Bradford Connor have been performing together since 1989 and have participated in conferences on Broadway, Hollywood, and the Great American Songbook. They have the distinction of premiering works by Irving Berlin and George Nair Gershwin. They're producing directors of American Classics and are founding members of the Boston Association of Cabaret Artists, an organization promoting awareness and performance of cabaret in the Boston area. Sears and Connor are known for their research in the music and lyrics of Tin Pan Alley, Broadway, and Hollywood. Ben's first book, The Irving Berlin Reader, was published by Oxford University Press in April 2012. And he has a forthcoming chapter for a Wizard of Oz book published by OEP as well. Brad is editing the new edition of the classic American popular song 1900-1950 by Alec Wilder. They've also restored and produced the only revival of Yip Yip Yaphank, the source of today's lecture recital. Jeffrey McGee teaches and writes about music in the United States, especially jazz, musical theater, and popular song. His interests include a variety of African American traditions, issues of Jewish American musical identity, and Black Jewish intersections. He's the author of the award-winning books The Uncrowned King of Swing, Fletcher Henderson's Big Band Jazz, and Irving Berlin's American Musical Theater. His book in progress, Gypsy and the American Dream, is under contract with OUP. Professor McGee has published prolifically in many journals and has given given public lectures at the Library of Congress, Harvard University, 92Y, and several other colleges and universities. His voice may be heard on the documentary series Leonard Bernstein and American Life, narrated by Susan Sarandon and widely aired on public radio, and he has been interviewed by the New York Times and Al Jazeera America. His forthcoming articles in all Sondheim and all Hamilton issues of studies in musical theater. Please welcome Ben, Bradford, and Jeffrey in revisiting Irving Berlin's Yip Yip Yaphank.
King of Hungary, they all laid down their swords. In that song from 1915, Irving Berlin portrays ragtime as a unifying force in which a persona dreams of a ball where European royals celebrate in cooperation and peace. Just over a decade earlier, ragtime had been a controversial idiom, to some a bracing new indigenous style, to others a scourge on the American musical landscape. For Berlin, it was an all-American style that brought the nation's diverse population together and served as a force for peace around the world. Of course, by the time he wrote that song, the world was already at war, so its vision could only be a dream. Berlin wrote many other songs about the Great War, including an entire Broadway review about its impact on soldier and civilian life, and we'll hear several of those today. Music and war have a complicated relationship. Music can inspire action, offer solace, and honor the dead. It can also increase tensions and speak truth to power. With the assistance of amplification, it can even be weaponized. It can also divert attention from death and destruction in order to entertain. While doing that, it can also create a bond between performers and audiences and raise money for a good cause. Such is the case with Irving Berlin's songs from his all-soldier wartime review, Yip Yip Yaphank, which premiered in August of 1918. So 1 century ago this month, Irving Berlin stood on the cusp of a career change. He had just become a U.S. citizen on February 6, 1918, and just before turning age 29, he was drafted into the Army soon after. By this time, he had already achieved international renown as the writer of Alexander's Ragtime Band and several other hit songs since his breakout year of 1919 with such songs as Sadie Salome, Go Home. He had also made his mark on Broadway with several numbers for the Ziegfeld Follies and his first show, Watch Your Step, an on-the-town escapade featuring the latest dance crazes modeled by Vernon and Irene Castle and a crowd-pleasing opera spoof. Now, as a celebrity soldier, he was stationed at Camp Upton in Yaphank, Long Island. As he reported later, he hated many aspects of Army life, especially revelry. But as Berlin had done before, he turned privation into opportunity and convinced his commanding officer that he could best realize his patriotic duty by writing a camp show featuring the soldiers around him. For that, he was given the rank of sergeant and the right to sleep in as long as he wished. Yip Yip Yaphank, conceived and developed at Camp Upton in the summer of 1918, established the style and structure of a show he would create during World War II. This is the Army. And his catalyst for this one was the challenge of fusing Army content with show business conventions. Hatched in the heyday of the Review, the World War I show reflected the Review's impulse to adopt and parody aspects of current music and theater while being unified around a central topical theme, the U.S. Army and the common soldier's experience. In this show, Berlin discovered the musical theater in Army life, a discovery that would continue to resonate in his work for decades, in This Is the Army, and in the films Alexander's Ragtime Band, and even White Christmas. The show was billed as a military mess cooked up by the boys of Camp Upton in aid of the fund to establish a community house at Camp Upton for the wives, mothers, and sweethearts who visit their boys at camp. Yip Yip Yaphank ran for just 32 performances, but although the run was brief by Broadway standards, it actually had to be extended from the limited 8-performance run that had been planned. This was a remarkable achievement for a show in the Century Theater, a massive house with more than 2,300 seats. The show succeeded beyond expectation, earning a reported $50,000 from its packed houses by September 1 alone. So our goal today is to recapture some of the excitement of the show with several songs that Berlin wrote for it, and a few war-related songs that he wrote in that period aside from the show. The presentation will contain 10 more songs, and we'll do it in 3 sets, with, starting with a 3-song set from Yip Yip Yaphank. Kitchen Police is a comical lament in which Berlin himself appeared as a lowly private together with some cross-dressed soldiers. This is one of the conventions of minstrelsy that was a common element in this show. We frequently have the soldiers dressing up in a variety of ways, including as women. The next one in this set, Sterling Silver Moon, is a courtship and wedding song for the show's first part, which comprised an entire sort of mini minstrel show, complete with soldiers' choruses, the soldier chorus on risers, and the end men in blackface. The song was revised and revived as Mandy for the 1919 Ziegfeld Follies, a major production in that show, and as such appeared 35 years later in the film White Christmas. The last number in the set to follow was the show's Act One finale. Send a lot of jazz bands over there, merge the country's newly exportable musical style and its Army's mission, with a nod to Georgia Cohen's recent hit, Over There, and an exhortation to the president, Mr. Wilson. Here, jazz, like ragtime before it, is an idiom that emerged from African American culture that now serves as an agent of bonding and morale boosting for the Allied cause in France.
So if Ben is going to sing the Irving Berlin part, I'm sorry I left my dress at home. When the song was in the show, it was a big hit, but it wasn't selling any sheet music. And Irving Berlin found out that people were going into stores and asking for Mandy. And so he pulled them all and made a new cover that said Mandy. So it's now very confusing which song you're buying if you find an original sheet music.
Yip Yip Yaphank succeeded not through flag waving and sentiment, but by focusing instead on the ordinary experiences of the common soldier to which civilians could relate, having to clean the kitchen, getting wrenched out of bed too soon, finding solace in a safe haven for R&R, facing rigid rules with nimble wit, and dreaming of the girl left behind. In fact, a common thread in almost all of Irving Berlin's war-related songs is a unique angle that captures Army life in a way that resonates as widely as possible. And of course, all are shaped by the gendered, heterosexual norms of the sheet music industry's products. Our next set features 3 songs that preceded Yaphank by several months, each creating a comic or poignant, self-contained story. They were all out of step, but Jim voices 2 parents' misplaced pride in their soldier boy who cannot seem to synchronize in marching formation. I'm Going to Pin a Medal on the Girl I Left Behind taps into a decades-old and newly popular Girl I Left Behind trope that many war period songs reflect, sometimes with comic effect, like this other one not by Berlin. The girl I left before I left the girl I left behind. A song Berlin wrote in the summer of 17 addresses such a girl directly in what might be called an advice number. The unnamed persona notices the girl looks sad, and the chorus becomes the advice to, quote, smile and show your dimple, you'll find it's very simple. 16 years later, as many of you know, Berlin recycled part of the melody and rewrote the lyrics as In Your Easter Bonnet with All the Frills upon it to create one of his enduring standards, Easter Parade. And of course, 15 years after that, in 1948, it gave its title to the famous Fred Astaire, Judy Garland movie. We move on to our next set.
Also point out that they were all out of step, but Jim is un-PC.
So get ready.
Yes. Jimmy's mother went to see her son marching along on parade. In his uniform and with his gun, what a lovely picture he made. She got home that evening, filled up with delight, and to all the neighbors she would yell with all her might. Did you see me little Jimmy marching with the soldiers up the avenue? There was Jimmy just as stiff as starch, like his daddy on the 17th of March. Did you notice all the lovely ladies casting their eyes on him? Away he went to live in a tent over in France with his regiment. Many there, and tell me, did you notice they were all out of step but Jim? That night, little Jimmy's father stood buying the drinks for the crowd. You could tell that he was feeling good. He was talking terribly loud. 20 times he treated, my, but he was dry. When his glass was empty, he would treat again and cry. Did you see me little Jimmy marching with the soldiers up the avenue? There was Jimmy just as stiff as starch, like his daddy on the 17th of March. Did you notice all the lovely ladies casting their eyes on him? It made me glad to gaze at the lad. Lord help the Kaiser if he's like his dad. Were you there? And tell me, did you notice they were all out of step but Jim? what's in her heart between the lines. And when I get back, yes, when I get back, I'm gonna pin my medal on the girl I left behind. Little girlie, you look sad. I can tell you're feeling bad because he's leaving. But stop your grieving, little girl. He don't want you to feel blue, for it's not the thing to do. It will soon be over, and he'll come marching back to you. Smile and show your dimple. You'll find it's very simple. You can think of something comical in a very little while. Chase away the wrinkle. Sprinkle just a twinkle. Light your face up. Just brace up and smile. Little girlie, don't you know that your pearly teeth will show if you keep smiling? So keep on smiling, little girl. You can cut your cares in half if you'll only start to laugh. Look into my camera. I'm going to take your photograph. Smile and show your dimple. You'll find it's very simple. You can think of something comical in a very little while. Chase away the wrinkle. Sprinkle just a twinkle. Light your face up. Just brace up and smile. Chase away the wrinkle. Sprinkle just a twinkle. Light your face up. Just brace up and smile.
As we move into our final set of songs from Yip Yip Yaphank, it's worth remembering that military camp shows were nothing new. Thousands of soldiers created and performed in ad hoc minstrel shows, vaudevilles, revues, and musical comedies in both world wars. But for the most part, shows never went beyond their home camps. So a soldier show on Broadway required an imaginative leap, for it would be inevitably be compared with others. Indeed, an all-soldier show might have seemed a contradiction in terms, given the revues, this time in the revue's heyday. Unlike most revues, most notably the Ziegfeld Follies, Yaphank could not depend on stars or feminine display. Yet the New York Times viewed the largely amateur cast as, quote, an immeasurable advantage over the commercial musical show, unquote. Moreover, two shows staged earlier in 1918 that paved the way for Berlin's undertaking. A musical comedy called Goodbye Bill, created and performed by the U.S. Army Ambulance Corps, and Biff Bang, a revue staged by a naval training camp in Pelham, New York. Both shows received strong reviews, and the Times even went so far as to claim in spring of 1918 that, quote, these service shows are the high spot of the past year of musical entertainment, unquote. Still, most of Berlin's cast members were amateurs. Simon Silverman of Variety noted that with awe, that of all these 350 boys, not over 20 ever appeared on the professional stage before. It's only show people who can fully appreciate what that means, unquote. Our final sequence contains one of Berlin's all-time greatest hits, and builds to the show's finale. It begins with a lullaby, and I don't have a sheet music cover for this one, but the title. Picturing a sleeping soldier, Dream On, Little Soldier Boy, with lyrics by Gene Schwartz, a rare instance after the early teens of Berlin collaborating with another lyricist. He wrote the music for that. This number refers to Reveille, plants the seed for the song to follow, Oh, How I Hate to Get Up in the Morning. This whimsical complaint in the style of a quick-step march boasts a string of comic violent hyperbole, as in the line, someday I'm going to murder the bugler, someday they're going to find him dead, I'll amputate his reveille and step upon it heavily and spend the rest of my life in bed. Sorry guys, so the punchline. This was Berlin's signature song in both wars, tightly bound to his stage persona and his light, rough-textured, what he called whiskey voice. So from there, the now awakened soldier finds solace and refuge in the YMCA. Then we close with the show's finale, We're on our way to France. In this stirring march, a large cast in uniform filed off the stage, down the aisles, and out into the street as if fulfilling the song's charge. So powerful was its impact that Berlin insisted on commemorating this scene twice on film. First, in Alexander's Ragtime Band of 1938, and then again in This Is the Army, the 1943 film based on the World War II review that he had built on the foundation of Yip Yip Yaphank. Although Yip Yip Yaphank ran only 32 performances, its concept and numbers, like the ones we're about to hear, continue to resonate on stage and screen for decades to come. And I'll let these guys take us on.
So if he's going to steal our punchline, so we'll tell you about the hats. This hat is a World War I authentic hat. It was worn in the battlefield. You can even see the splotches on it. It was decommissioned. The way they did that was they stamped on the top and on the brim. So, in fact, this probably saw active duty. We also have a pickle halva at home, but we weren't going to bring that on the plane. But meanwhile, Ben's hat is fake.
I'm just a singer. forgetting it all. Resting cozily, dreaming rosily, awaiting your call. Ooh, soldier boy, may all your happiest hours come back in dreams. May sunshine follow the showers with brightest beams. With a peaceful mind, in the land of fancy, with the girl you left behind. Sleep on whatever befalls, till dawn when reveille calls. Dream on, little soldier boy. Irving Berlin said that he wrote very few autobiographical songs, but this one came from the heart. I've been a soldier for a while and I would like to state the life is simply wonderful, the army food is great. I sleep with 97 others in a wooden hut. I love them all, they all love me, it's very lovely, but oh how I hate to get up in the morning. Oh how I'd love to remain in bed, for the hardest blow of all is to hear the bugler call. You gotta get up, you gotta get up, you gotta get up this morning. Someday I'm going to murder the bugler. Someday they're going to find him dead. I'll amputate his reveille and step upon it heavily and spend the rest of my life in bed. A bugler in the army is the luckiest of men. He wakes the boys at 5 and then goes back to bed again. He doesn't have to blow again until the afternoon. If everything goes well with me, I'll be a bugler soon. Oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. Oh, how I'd love to remain in bed. For the hardest blow of all is to hear the bugler call. You gotta get up, you gotta get up, you gotta get up this morning. Oh boy, the minute the battle is over. Oh boy, the minute the foe is dead. I'll put my uniform away and move to Philadelphia and spend the rest of my life in bed. And then I'll get that other pup, the guy that wakes the bugler up, and spend the rest of my life in bed.
And yes, we know YMCA and Finding a Little Sunshine there has taken on a new aura since the 60s. But this was 1918.
Mother dear, I've just finished best and I'm here in the YMCA. How I've missed your tender caress since the day that I marched away. can picture me every evening at the close of the day, writing a little letter in the YMCA. Don't you worry, mother darling, for while the skies are gray, I can always find a little sunshine in the YMCA. Don't you worry, mother darling, for while the skies are gray, I can always find a little sunshine in the YMCA. You don't have to march out, by the way.
So do you know the legend behind this? The show was closing. The show was closing. This happens, and it's depicted in the film Alexander's Ragtime Band. That in fact, as they were going to close the show, the company was called up to the front lines in France. And when they closed the show that night, they actually sang this song, marched out of the theater, went to the boats, and went to the front lines.
All is ready, so just hold steady. We'll soon be marching to the pier. No more waiting or hesitating. The time to sail is here. My mothers and all the others will come to shed a little tear. Don't cry, bye-bye. Give us a parting cheer. We're on our way to France. There's not a minute to spare. That's why, for when the Yanks advance, you know we want to be there. Goodbye. Old Hoboken is bent and broken from soldiers marching on her pier. While you slumber, a great big number of soldiers disappear. To the millions of brave civilians that we are leaving over here, we say, hey, hey, give us a parting cheer. We're on our way to France. There's not a minute to spare. That's why, for when the Yanks advance, you bet we want to be there. Goodbye. We're on our way to France. There's not a minute to spare. That's why, for when the Yanks advance, you bet we want to be there. Goodbye.
Would you like one more? So, Irving Berlin was always very involved in the political scene. When Germany was getting ready to invade Belgium, he actually wrote a song called The Voice of Belgium, and boom, it happened. In World War II, in 1938-39, he wrote a song called When That Man Is Dead and Gone. It was all about Hitler. And he was saying the U.S. needs to get in there before this gets worse. And of course, we didn't listen to it. But in any case, we had this one number that we were debating, and we love this cover. The Devil Has Bought Up All the Coal, and it's Irving Berlin's comment on the coal shortage and why it was happening in Germany.
And the U.S. too, everywhere.
Right.
Really